over your time significantly, I'll let you know. Also, if we have any trouble with audio or anything like that, I might jump in. But otherwise, I'm just going to put myself on mute and sit back and let you lead for the next 20 minutes. So if you want to start sharing your screen, we're really delighted to see what you have today.
Cool. Okay, so. Can you guys like see this presentation right now?
Looks good, yes.
Okay, just making sure. Cool. So I'm just gonna start off by showing you guys just a quick video just so you guys can have a little bit of an intro to what my project is, and then I'll jump into it after. So the basis of my project is around this idea of content creation. So I really was interested in the idea of content creating once I, hold on, let's see if I can hit pause anywhere on the screen. Okay. So yeah, I really want to see what makes this idea of content creation sorry, I'm having a little bit of an issue. Okay, cool. So I really want to see what makes this so interesting by exploring the idea of content creating, people making videos, putting themselves out there for the world to see, and ultimately sharing their ideas with the world. So I really, here, I'm just gonna like exit out real quick because something is like kind of overridden. Ooh. Yeah, I'm just gonna show it like this for a sec.
Whatever works best for you, we're fine.
Yeah. So yeah, so just earlier this year, I actually started my own like YouTube channel, and I started to just kind of experiment more with what it was like to have like my own social media presence. And I viewed my channel as a way to explore my own personal interests and like just kind of share that with people without necessarily having a specific agenda. But my biggest challenge was definitely kind of just figuring out where to start. So I know that like recently it's become increasingly popular for people to aspire to be vloggers, to be YouTubers, to be stars. And I think that it's just a really interesting platform for people to have because it's so accessible to an extent. It's something that anybody could really do from your average Joe. So there's an alert to that. But I did want to ask my audience what you guys think about content creating in vlogs. Like, what do you think makes it so attractive?
I think one thing I'd like to say is that I think one thing that makes it attractive is just that you have complete control over everything from like your schedule to what you make. You just have like complete control over what you do from your day-to-day life, and that just can't apply to like a day job or like any other job, for matter of fact, not even being a student. So I think that fact of having complete control of your life is very appealing.
I think it's also something that looks super fun. like a lot of times people who make video content make sure they're in like fun situations. So you kind of get a little bit of FOMO and you kind of want to be them. And so that's what draws some people in, is like, I want to have that lifestyle that looks like they're having fun constantly 24/7.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, if that's all, then does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Cool. So yeah, I personally, through my experience, like looking through and seeing like what makes content creation so attractive, I found that like one of the basis of it was people having the opportunity to relate to someone on like a closer level. So like compared to a celebrity feels like this person that's just like completely inaccessible, and it's like, I could never like run into this person, and if you do, like you'll feel like so starstruck, and it feels like in a way that they're almost on this like different pedestal, whereas someone who is a vlogger, someone who's a YouTuber, like you get to see a more human side of them a lot of the time. So it feels a lot more like down to earth of an experience. So and I was looking into like what makes this vlogger type of person, like what makes these people um, what would make a person choose one over the other, say like in the world of makeup, like for instance, like people, there are plenty of YouTubers who have a strong interest in makeup and they make their their videos around that, but what keeps people to pick one person over the other, I find that it was really the unique person. It's that personality and who you are. So I find that like when you have so much options, there's so many different ways to go about what you're you know uh, what you're trying to do and what you're trying to show yourself as in terms of your personal brand. Um, it can feel almost overwhelming to decide like, how am I going to orient myself in terms of my audience? Like what will I do to try to try to grab their attention? Um, so I felt that um, then my research question was, how can I identify and fuse together the best aspects of the most popular lifestyle and hobby YouTube channels to create guidelines for a more organized and sustainable and consistent YouTube channel? So in the beginning of my research, I had this idea for something like an online repository, almost like Skillshare, where people have this like, opportunity to really look for their specific niche and like learn more in depth and like have this opportunity to be kind of taught by people they felt were experts. But I also kind of wanted the experience of like, working on yourself, like almost like a self-help kind of situation where, you can kind of take control by like having a level of organization and planning that allows you to really tackle your goals. Um, so I felt like if you have this like unique combo of like learning, processing, and planning, then that would help you to achieve what you want the best by allowing you to, really think about what you want to do, how you're going to do it, and actually put it on a timeline instead of it just being this abstract dream. So in the beginning, my thoughts were very messy about it because I felt like the world of this is so broad. There's just so much going on at any given point. And so I was making many mind maps to try to figure out how I was going to organize the content. And I found that it was really quite uh, quite overwhelming to start because it just seemed like, this uh, for me to tackle something like YouTube, if I want to create something to help people create better content and I'm trying to identify one specific thing or just a few specific things, it was really hard to say like, it's just the way that you film the video, or it's just the way that you talk. It's just down to presentation skills. And I was really even thinking towards marketing, and I was like, okay, well, maybe it actually has to do with brand strategy. Maybe it's treating yourself as a brand and like finding a way to become more recognizable. among people. And I found that um, with all of these ideas, it was just so much to really uh, go for and try to make it specific to a user. So I decided to refine my question. Um, so my final question wound up being, how can I use this path of personal discovery as a way to direct content creators so they can create more meaningful, organized, and gripping content for their audience in a way that fits their unique personas? So realistically, in my, referring back to my experience at MassArt, one thing I really loved was whenever I went to the Academic Resource Center, I had the opportunity to talk to success coaches, and I thought it was really cool because these aren't necessarily people who specifically major in what you major in all the time. These are people who are there to help you out and like learn more about you, and then like find a way to help you become your best you by like driving you towards your own goal. So in a way, they had this appeal of being like almost like one size fits all without actually being like hard set in one specific area of specialty. And I really like that idea. So as I was storyboarding, I decided, as I was deciding, trying to congeal my thoughts and everything and how I was going to organize it, I realized that an app was definitely the way to go. Originally, I wanted more of a website, but I realized that a website just wasn't dynamic enough, and neither was a book. So I decided to go for more of an application instead that had a little bit more functionality and the ability to just be like kind of follow you everywhere and really travel with you along your day. So initially, it felt like on one hand, I really like the idea of using a lot of color and different opacities to convey a mood that just kind of put the user at ease. So it almost felt like a diary that you're logging into. But I decided that because of the kind of content that I wanted to add to it, it just wasn't working visually. So then I decided like, okay, like what if I made the content feel more at home by like using similar elements so that like when the user comes in, it feels very like something that they're already used to, so they can kind of jump right into it. And I also realized that it just worked a lot better when you're showing such a wide variety of content to have a more reduced theme. But then my next issue then became navigation. Like how is I going to have all of these different aspects to my app and have it be something that actually works for the user? So I didn't. I had a really hard time trying to decide like, okay, like am I going to keep a bottom navigation in my wireframes, or should it be more of a hamburger bar? I always felt like a hamburger bar was more of a cop out, but then I decided that like, even that has its own place. So I kind of did a lot of research on like different like websites and like how people were like really like filing the information. And I would say that like in terms of my creation of the app, that was actually probably one of my biggest struggles, was just deciding like, how am I gonna actually make this go into something in a way that makes sense? Like what will the transitions from page to page look like? So then I came up with a Vloggers Coach finally. So Vloggers Coach is basically your AI success coach for content creation. So it has multiple features to it. So one of the main features for it is Explore. And the point of Explore is to help inspire you and create content to help influence you in your journey to become a better content creator. So it has articles and videos and forums, and each of those can kind of offer you information in a way kind of more suited to your learning. So however you learn, like whatever you lean towards. For me, for instance, I actually learn a lot more through like reading, but some people also like to have the ability to really have a discussion and ask questions. So that's where the forum section kind of comes in to help you out with that as well. And then calendar. So I think something that like my internship really taught me was the idea of like really just planning out like content, because we had to work on content for their website. And so we had a really intense content calendar. So I think that like when you apply that level of planning and organization to something like being a YouTuber, to being a content creator, then you can really like direct where you're going with things, and you actually have a chance to be more culturally aware of yourself too, and think like, oh, like this is this time of the year, so this is something that people want to see, and then you can kind of start planning like in a more in depth way, so you can actually help yourself to be more in touch with your audience in that way as well. And then activity is the apps. This is kind of where the AI kind of pops in for the app. So besides suggesting content for you, it'll also kind of have this questionnaire, and like kind of start to figure out like, you know, what are you into, like what do you like, how do you work, what are your areas of productivity, and kind of see like what your habits are a little bit, so that it can like feed back into you for that. um, and by seeing your activity, like just kind of seeing like where your peak periods were, you can kind of see like what your process is. And then finally, goals. So I think that every content creator may have like some sort of goal in their head, but I think that when you put it in a place and you make it um, like just kind of hard set value, like that really does help you kind of stay on track. Um, and when you run out of ideas, then the app has a section to suggest more ideas for you. For instance, a lot of people have follower accounts as a goal. Or maybe you want to make a certain number of videos, or maybe you want to have like regular content. So those are all like viable ways to do that. Um, so yeah, without further ado, I will show you guys my walkthrough for this app, and kind of just explain to you how it all sort of comes together. See if the video will play. So beginning of the app, you will enter this here. You will like enter this onboarding process. Okay, let's give it one more chance. Okay. Well, I will. This is a great time to. Okay, perfect. So with this app, you will have the option to enter this like onboarding process, and it kind of just gives you an idea of what you're about to get into. So one of the first things the app wants to do is just start to get to know you, almost like just like kind of the same way you would talk to your success coach if you were in the ARC, for instance. And it wants to figure out like where you are in terms of your experience. So if you're someone who is a really experienced YouTuber, it's not going to be the same experience as someone who's just now starting. And so then it can also see like what your main interests are and like where you want to go with your channel in terms of your goals. And then as you move through the app to and search through content, the app is also influenced by what you're doing, and what you look at and what you decide is interesting to you. So over here, we're like looking through articles, and you can see that for a user like that really likes to read and like receive information that way, it's really helpful to kind of just talk about different topics, and see them that way, and having the opportunity to see the forums and what other users think too is really helpful as well. A really convenient, obviously, option of the app is to be able to search for what you want too. So it doesn't feel like the app is solely the driver of this train for you. You can kind of continue to push the bill, and when as your interests change, the app will change with you. So another helpful aspect of the app is just the ability to like save your content. So when you have something like a forum post, you can actually pin it. And once you pin something, it goes to where all your received content is on the app too. So it's not just information that's like passing you by. You can actually kind of track what's going on. So let's say this discussion is still ongoing and people are adding comments. You can actually continue to see what they have to say about it. And then for your activity too, it's just really helpful to like, keep feeding the app in terms of like what you're doing that day. And if you add in your hours too, you can see like over the course of the year, like how many hours have you been putting in. And then because the goals are actually kind of categorized by these little color dots, that also kind of gives you an idea of like what the priority is. And then you can also just make notes to yourself, things you wrote down, things you found interesting, and that kind of helps you stay organized. And this is where all your saved stuff winds up being. So yeah, that kind of sums up the entirety of my app basically, and what I came up with. So yeah, I would say overall, the idea of the bloggers coach was really interesting to me, and I definitely think that even with everything going on with the virus in the semester, um, I still found a way to like kind of make it work. I definitely would have liked to have more of the opportunity to interact with like other students and get more input, because I definitely felt like conducting class through just Zoom, I did feel like I was missing something there. But overall, I kind of really enjoyed the project because it did help inform me too about where I would like to go with my own YouTube channel. So in a big way, this project did me the most service. So yeah, that concludes my presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. If you want to turn off screen sharing so that we can see all of the other faces in the room, then I'll open it up for questions. So what questions and comments do you guys have?
I really love your concepts, and I think you did a really nice job translating it into an app. I liked all the different features that you had in there. It seemed like they would be really useful for someone who wanted to become a vlogger, to like all the things about staying motivated and just ways to keep them on track. I think that could be really helpful. I think most resources for vloggers, I haven't looked into it, but I get the impression that there's probably a lot of people like just making videos for other vloggers. That seems like the natural way to get information for those people. So that's probably what most of the resources are. But having kind of a separate app, I don't know, it gives you this kind of space to think about it, like a space where you can just focus on your journey and like what you want to achieve with it, which is kind of nice.
That's great. Thanks, Becca. What else?
I have a question. So I really like how you focus on like success online and such. I think that's very important, like for people to understand, not only for content creators, but even like consumers. I think it's important for people to understand that as well. Notice since your project was called the vlogging coach, I was wondering how perhaps since YouTube is of course not only vlogging but encompasses a wide range of other media types. I was wondering how perhaps that could be used for those other types of content creators, perhaps not only on YouTube, but on other platforms such as TikTok and whatnot, other platforms that people use for content creation as well.
So I definitely think that in terms of like the development of the app, like to me that would be like kind of the next phase, is getting it to like having a little bit more tweaking for the UI for you to like designate like what your mode is in terms of like how you're going to create your videos, because what you put into a 1 minute video or a 7-second video is very different from a 10-minute video or a 20-minute video. So I definitely think that it would be really nice to kind of develop the app more in that direction. Like obviously had I more time to do that. But I think that the app could definitely function for that, just because you're feeding the AI as you're going through it. So things can actually only get more specific the more you use it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that sounds great.
Hi, Bola. Hi, Catherine. Hi, everyone. Um,
Hi.
I just want to peek behind. So how was, I'm wondering about like the research behind this. Like, how was that process for you?
So I felt like I probably I was looking through honestly a lot of articles, and I was looking into, for instance, marketing strategy and like how do people function in a brand, like how do they operate in that way. And then I was looking into different, like I was honestly just also looking at a lot of different videos and like trying to identify like the different styles and try to see um, like, for instance, like if my experience was for this user, like why, where would this app help them, and like where might it fall short? And then besides that, like obviously I did get a lot of input along the way. So I was looking at a lot of different UI, like a lot of different app UIs as well, to like try to reference like how is this information being filed, because I felt like for the way the information was filed on my app, I actually haven't seen a different kind of app that really has like all of that. Like so I was like kind of mishmashing a lot of different ideas together and like trying to see like, okay, like how is this going to work?
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions?
What was the hardest part of this process for you?
Well, for me, I don't know. I guess for me, when I start off with an idea, it's actually very difficult for me to take it from it being an idea as like a concept and like making it into like a functional like visual. Just because to me, like it always feels like very difficult to narrow things down, because the way I think, I like to make things broader. So like, if you give me an idea and you want someone to make it more complicated, I'm the guy. I think for a while it was kind of a big exercise to figure out like how am I going to take a step back, like how am I going to reduce it. And I think that it was definitely really helpful to have critique in class so that I could actually do that, because I think that kind of helped me to think like, I think I'm more of an external processor. So when people ask me questions and I'm able to talk in like the conversational form, like that's for me the best way to process information. But I would say overall that was the hardest part.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
So it's 10:28, excuse me, and we need to conclude soon. So I just wanted to say really quickly, congratulations. You did a fantastic job. You are done. You have achieved something in a time that is incredibly difficult, and I really think that that is a laudable achievement, and you deserve to pat yourself on the back for doing all of this. I also was really delighted to see how you wove your personal experience into this, and how you took things from many different arenas of your life and managed to compile them in a way that felt very cohesive. So I loved, the references to your internship, the references to the ARC, this personal passion project that you're embarking on right now, and seeing how all of those things could be knitted together to make a really comprehensive whole is fantastic. And that's exactly what Degree Project is about. So I think we need to end so the next person can start. So congratulations. You did a fantastic job. You can go enjoy the rest of the presentations knowing that you are done. Yeah. Clapping emojis. Nice to see you all.
Thanks, you did great.
Hi, Vinny.
Hi,
How are you?
how are you?
Doing
Hi,
well.
Kenneth. Good. Conveniently, about 3 minutes ago, the entire building just had a blackout. So I
That's all right.
was like,
That's all right.
okay, but
Um,
bless cellulars.
so you're very familiar with the process at this point, I'm sure, but I just want to give you an overview, and that will give people time to come in because I know we're transitioning between presentations right now. So you'll have 20 minutes to talk.
Mhm.
I'll set a timer.